one.
Well, hello, Riley. Thanks for talking to us about all things Joy and Aiken, and we're very happy to have you with us. And as you well know, you are the artistic director of our jazz program, and I think everybody would really like to know, how did you get started with Joy and Aiken?
Well, thank you, Jack. It's great to see you. It feels like the last time I was in real life before the whole pandemic started. I was in Aiken, and you
Yes.
and I were going to schools all over Aiken and stopping in, working with the jazz bands, and we had so much fun. So
Yeah.
the feeling of Aiken is still, it's fresh within me. But I first came to Aiken as a student at Juilliard. So I was studying jazz trumpet at the Juilliard School. And one year they said, hey, do you want to come down to South Carolina? And at that time, the partnership was called Juilliard in Aiken. And I came down first with the brass quartet I'm in called the Westerlies. And we had such a good time. I started coming back leading a jazz band from Juilliard made up of students. And then around the time I graduated is when Janice and Sandra and I first sort of started talking about the idea of incorporating a full day dedicated to jazz, which became our Joy of Jazz Day that kicks off the festival each year, and then expanding their programming from that. So it's been 6-7 years now since I first came to Aiken, but it's got a special place in my heart.
Well, that's good. We're so happy that you're with us. Can you talk to me about how the festival and the outreaches have affected you, and then also your career?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the festival is such a beautiful, it's sort of like it's an outlet for me to make a lot of dreams come true that might not be able to come true in New York or on the road or in any other sort of circumstances. Each year for the festival, I get to brainstorm who am I most excited about in terms of young artists creating right now? What are some dream collaborations I have of hearing two people back to back, or even like hearing two people jumping in with each other at a jam session? And so these sorts of dreams happen all year long. And so it's both a creative outlet for me in my work and my career, but it's also an opportunity to support musicians that I really believe in. And so that goes beyond my career, but just the supporting the careers of musicians who are doing incredible and important work.
What about the work with the outreaches into the schools? How has that affected you?
Yeah, I mean, the outreach that we do, it's expansive. We reach a lot of students every year in a lot of different ways. First of all, it's the most fun thing I get to do all year. You know, when you step into the Etheridge Center and you've got 500 kids screaming, you feel like you're one of the Beatles or something like that. You know, it's just, it's larger than life. And the kids allow you a freedom to be wild and to jump up and down and put all that energy into the music that sometimes if you've got a suit on and you're playing for adults, you might be a little too sheepish to go that far. And so I always think that the kids actually, they give us a freedom that then we take into our regular shows as performers. And I think it's a beautiful sort of way that the spirit and the energy of the kids actually changes how we present the music for the better.
Yeah. As you said, we spent a week together this past March, going into all the various different schools to talk about the jazz camp and also bring jazz to every school. And I thought it was very interesting the different reactions for the different kids in the various different schools we hit. How did you feel about it?
I loved it because just like in jazz, there was a lot of improvisation. Every school we walked into, some schools had a full jazz band that was at a high level, swinging, improvising, dealing with the whole history of jazz. And I loved working with those kids and turning them on to new artists and pushing them to get to the next level. And then I remember one school, they brought out every musician in the school was in the lunchroom with their instrument, and they had from all levels, they had all learned one song together. And so we had a huge lunchtime jam with, you remember, how many kids must have been there?
I think there were a little over 100 there.
Yeah, 100 kids all jamming together on one song. There's a video of it somewhere.
Yeah.
But that's the type of experience that you just don't get that anywhere else.
Right,
And it
right.
stays with you, the
Yeah,
spirit of that moment. So I always say it goes both ways, like what we're able to give to the kids certainly give it back to us as well.
sure. So as you said, we last saw each other on a Thursday evening following a performance of A Fiddler's Tale, which was an amazing evening. And then everything kind of shut down for all of us. So what's it been like for you and your colleagues during this pandemic, and how have you coped through the process,
Hmm.
artistically at least?
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. I think everyone was in sort of different places. There are the things that are the same for everyone in terms of immediately we realized that as performers who play in front of people, live performances, uh, our our work is going to suffer significantly. All of our concerts were booked all of our concerts that were booked were then canceled more or less indefinitely. Um, and then personally, all of our lives got jumbled up in all sorts of ways as well. For me, I ended up having COVID, and so I went through the whole experience of getting over that virus. And it was I was very lucky. It was not serious at the level where I ever had to worry about going to a hospital or anything like that. But it was not fun, and so we were all sort of set back in various ways. And then sort of came the stage of how do we create content and do our work in a digital space. So that's been a really exciting time of collaboration and seeing what other people are doing and getting new ideas on how can we make videos together, how can we interact over Zoom or other platforms to share what we love with our audiences. And I think people now, just as ever, are eager for music as sustenance and as something to help us all get through. And then now in recent weeks, there's been this incredible sort of American reckoning and processing of where we fall short in terms of racism and white supremacy in this country. And it's been incredible to see artists who've been to Aiken and artists all over our community finding ways to use their platforms and to use their art to amplify messages of what we can all do to get in that fight.
I agree. Um, so, having said all that, what do you see the future is for the festival in Joye and Aiken, and for our jazz camp that's coming up, and just your future as far as a musician and as an artist?
Yeah, it's a funny sort of thing where it feels like more than ever my future is week by week.
Yeah.
It has to do with where am I going to eat, where am I going to go, what is safe, what are all of us going to do. In terms of the festival, we are hoping that, how beautiful would it be if people were able to gather for Joye and Aiken and come together in that way, because we're all so eager for that feeling of being with others and
Right.
experiencing things together. So we're already in the works of brainstorming ideas for the festival as always. But what's extra exciting for next year is this addition of a jazz camp. So a lot of the students that we were able to reach going into the schools this past March, we're inviting them to come join us next June for an intensive jazz camp where all the things we touched on in those workshops, we get to really dive deep in. And we're going to have faculty from New York, faculty local to Aiken, around South Carolina. And that's always exciting for me because, you sometimes see the spark when you're in the classroom visiting, but if you really want to light that fire, you want to be able to work with the kids and day after day and see the growth that way. It's really incredible.
Well, thank you. On behalf of the Board of Trustees and really the entire area of Aiken, I would really like to thank you for everything that you have done for us and what you have contributed to our community and to the arts community and to the educational arts community as well. We really appreciate everything that you have done, and thank you for the time you've taken with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jack. And I want to extend my thank you and love to everyone down in Aiken. There aren't a lot of places and there aren't a lot of festivals where the community of artists who get the opportunity to go there continue to talk about it in their own circles in New York, on the road, around the country. Aiken holds a special place in all of our hearts, and that's because of the people. So our love to everybody. And Jack, it's just great to see you and catch up a little bit.
Great to see you. Thanks. Take care.
Take care.